A shocking New York Met injury update. This changes everything. And it doesn't necessarily change everything because of the player that got hurt. That's Jose Siri that got injured, the Mets center fielder who's splitting time with Tyrone Taylor after the Mets acquired him in the 2024 offseason via free agency. Where it changes everything is the roster reconstruction, or rather the lack thereof, given the lack of communication between the Mets and the media and the fans in terms of the way this injury is going to play out with the roster. Welcome back to Mets Digest. I'm your host, Mike Duda, and as always, I like to start off with some statistics. We're going to start off with a little subscriber statistic today. 77.2% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. Please do us all a favor here at Mets Digest. Hit that free subscribe button to be a part of the amazing club. That way we can produce content for you about the New York Metropolitans. So Jose Siri is injured. Here is the clip of the actual injury.
For 16, and he fouls that first sinker right off the leg and goes down in a heap, and he comes up whole left knee.
Yeah, he fouled that not off the padding that he has on it, but right off his left knee.
Ryan, the assistant athletic trainer, is going to come out to have a look. Siri clearly in discomfort.
It's no different than getting hit in the kneecap. Pitched ball. Fouled right on the inside part of his left knee.
So you see Siri going down. He's in a lot of pain. The report when he reported to the ballpark Sunday for the Mets game against the Sacramento A's, rather the A's that happened to be in Sacramento. It's so weird that the A's are not being called the Sacramento A's. Anyway, the injury happened on Saturday. And then Siri reported to the ballpark on Sunday. He could not put any weight on it, therefore he was in crutches. Now the positive news is that when he went in for x-rays, they came back negative. The Mets are yet to do a second round of x-rays on Siri, but they did some further testing on Monday and showed a CT and an MRI, both of which the results have not been released, at least at the time of filming right now. Now, the Met game is probably just about wrapping up as we speak. I cut that off in about the 8th to come here and film. And I go back to the roster. What's really weird is that the Mets could have played Jose Siri today. He was on the bench, and for what we know, he was in Minnesota, meaning he could have hit if he was healthy enough. But the problem is we don't know for certain because there just hasn't been enough communication about the way the roster is going to be reconstructed with this injury. Now, we've gotten plenty of updates about the actual injury itself. Carlos Mendoza, when the Mets reported to the ballpark on Sunday, he said with the way he's feeling right now, I could see this as a potential IL stint. And that's what we all thought. Gary Cohen even said it, the Mets play-by-play announcer. But Siri is still on the active roster. He's still on the 26-man roster, which is just really, really interesting to me. Now, let's have some fun. Let's play out the scenario that he hits the IL. I think the first guy that should be that fourth outfielder / splitting time with Tyrone Taylor should be Starling Marte. Maybe not. According to Mendoza, Marte is a guy in spring training that didn't play much, but he was healthy enough to make the opening day roster. Even though he was DHing, we are playing 13 games in a row. Yes, the Mets have 13 consecutive days with games, and it's something we will do throughout the year. Now, that was a quote from Carlos Mendoza, and okay, fine. Marte is probably not the best guy to go play the outfield because he's older, so he's probably better at a DH, right? All right, let's go with Jesse Winker. Maybe not, because you also want him at the DH. He's more of a corner outfielder, and you don't really want to slide Nimmo to center because he's starting to get comfortable in left. All right, fine. What about Luis Angel Acuna? No, you want him at second base, especially because I don't think a lot of people want Brett Beatty to be starting. Now, are one of these three situations going to play out? Almost 100%. But let's have some fun here because that's what we do at Mets Digest. And let's play out some scenarios in which the Mets do not go with any of those three listed items and they make a call assuming they put Jose Siri on the IR. First guy is Niko Goodrum. Yes, the Mets have Niko Goodrum in their farm system. He is a guy that can play the outfield. You see his career statistics here. I think he's the best guy to replace Jose Siri if Siri hits the IR. Career OPS a little bit below average at 83, but overall not the worst statistics. He does have a WAR that is positive that he has accumulated over his 7 seasons. Next guy that the Mets could roll out is Billy McKinney. That's a fun name. Mets have had him for a while. Ended up going to the Yankees. Spent some time in Pittsburgh as well most recently. He's in AAA right now. Another veteran that the Mets could call up if they need to. You see the stats on the screen now. Third guy is another veteran. So the Mets have 3 veterans that can play the outfield. Goodrum is listed as an infielder, but the other 2 are outfielders, that being McKinney and Rafael Ortega. That's a fun name that I bet some of you might have forgotten about. Also a career WAR that is positive, but not even at a 1. These guys are veterans that are in AAA for a reason. They're depth pieces, so let's use them as such. Now, a fun thing that I've been seeing is the potential of this guy coming up. This is the number 11 prospect in the New York Mets system. That was part of the Justin Verlander trade, if you recall that, back in 2023. This is Drew Gilbert's numbers. Now, it's weird because when you look at 2022, 23, and 24, he spent some time in AA and AAA, but right now he is in Single A, but is absolutely mashing. I think it's a little too early to bring him up right now, especially because he's a high prospect that the Mets want in the future. So I say we don't worry about that if we're the Mets in terms of filling that Siri spot, and I think we go with one of the 3 veterans. But again, here's another problem. A new report. Look at this. According to Mike Puma, Carlos Mendoza indicated that the Mets will likely utilize a 6th starting pitcher during the home series against the Cardinals that will begin this Thursday. The additional pitcher will allow Kodai Senga to receive extra rest during the stretch of 13 consecutive days with a game, which we saw earlier. Team officials have discussed Jose Urena and Justin Hagenman from AAA Syracuse as possibilities for the start, but they haven't ruled out the idea of top pitching prospects Brandon Sproat or Blade Tidwell. Very, very interesting. Now, the first name that was mentioned is Jose Urena. Let's take a look at his statistics over his career. He's played for a while. He's played since 2015, yet to make an MLB appearance this year. If he did, it would be his 10th year consecutively in the bigs. Yeah, not really the best of pitchers. I mean, nearly a 5 ERA, but he's a veteran, and it's a guy that you need one spot start from. So in my opinion, I think he's the best guy because he's the best in terms of veteranship. He's actually the only one that has a career and has pitched before in the MLB that Puma has mentioned in that quote. Here's the next guy. Now we're looking at minor league stats in Justin Hagenman, who has spent a while in the minors and has been in and out, but yet to make a pro start. So for a team that's really competitive, do you really want to try out a guy that's never pitched before? I don't think that's ideal, especially given how he hasn't been very good, especially this year in AAA in the minor leagues. Now, the next guy that was mentioned is a top prospect, actually the number 1 prospect in the Mets farm system and number 43 in the MLB in Brandon Sproat. Big pitching prospect that the Mets have been high on for a while, but he just hasn't really been that good this year in AAA, and it's also only the beginning of his 2nd minor league season. I think the Mets should give him a tad bit more time to develop before they start throwing him in the bigs. I don't think one spot start is ideal for him to begin his career because of how much of a high potential he has. And then the last guy that was mentioned is Blade Tidwell. He is the number 16 prospect in the farm system right now. Also not very good in terms of the statistics, and I think it's better off if the Mets leave him in AAA. So if you're going to get a spot start, I think the best guy to do so is Jose Urena. Now, originally, I thought that the Mets would have to use an option in order to get this spot start. But the more I think about it, the Mets could actually play this out really, really well. Let's say Siri needs some time, and he needs at least 10 days. What you could do is whenever you were going to make that spot start, keep Siri on the roster now. Think, oh, he's coming back in a couple days, right? Keep him on the roster. And then whenever you want that spot start, the day before, make an announcement that Siri is placed on the 10-day IR, retroactive to Saturday. Because then you lose no time with him. He's forced to be on the IR for 10 days, right? But that's not really a problem because you're going to be about a week in. and you're going to probably have him closer to healthy than not. He might not need a rehab start as well, and he was going to spend this time on the bench anyway. Why not get that roster spot and bring up that spot starter? So I think the Mets can actually play out this roster spot really, really smart. Regardless, this is going to have implications because the Mets haven't been great with the communication in terms of the roster reconstruction. We looked at some of the players that can take over, the 8 that I think are most probable to take over that Siri spot, especially if they do that retroactive thing that I was talking about with Siri's injury. Again, I think the best is that Jose Urania because of the spot start and because the Mets want a guy to take a start. So that is where we stand with the Jose Siri injury. As always, I want to wrap this up with some comments from the last video and my reaction. We have a comment here from Richard, and I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, the starting pitching is not being that efficient. They're walking a lot of batters. They're not getting length, and the offense has been putrid. Now, Soto is probably going to heat up. He actually just had a homer today in the victory. Now the game is official. It was a 5-1 victory for the Mets against the Twins. They keep winning. So you can't really complain too much. I understand there are some problems there. The pitching is not as efficient as it could be in terms of the walks, and the offense is just not there. But they're winning ball games. So, Rich, let's stay positive. Next comment. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Brett Beatty has to go. And I think we have a really good team in terms of the best in baseball. Maybe not the best, but I think we have a really, really good team, Phil. Looking forward to the rest of 2025. And then the final comment today, a jersey list. I love it from Old Man Wisdom, Lindor, Soto, Alonso. I agree. Get everyone in there for the jerseys. Love it. Thank you guys for commenting. Make sure to comment. That way I can feature your comment in the next video as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today on Mets Digest. We talked about the Jose Siri injury and the potential roster implications of it. I think the Mets need to do a little bit better of a job communicating, but if they do that smart thing with the retroactive IL, I think they are going to be in a pretty decent spot. So, Siri injury, it hurts, but the Mets will power through. They're now 11-5, still atop the NL East. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for you on Mets Digest. As always, thank you for watching, and let's go Mets. Take care, everyone.